listeners, and welcome to Yates CCE Gardens, Native Alternatives. I'm Lydia.
And I'm Caroline.
And in each episode, we'll be talking to you about a different invasive plant we have seen in the area and giving you a native alternative to plant instead. Remember, natives are always a better bet for your garden, and we're here to help you find the best one for your space. This week, we have an invasive ground cover. Vinca minor, also known as periwinkle or creeping myrtle, escaped ornamental cultivation in the 1700s. Originally from Europe and Asia, the plant is often used as ground cover or in hanging baskets. Though it prefers rich, moist, fertile soil and partial shade, it's very tolerant of poor conditions and various soil types. In the spring, it produces beautiful blue, lavender, or white flowers. Don't be fooled, however, creeping myrtle is a nasty invasive species. It spreads rapidly and can take root anywhere its trailing branches touch moist soil. It thrives in woodland areas, outcompeting native ground plants and seedlings. Vinca forms extensive dense mats of vegetation, which make it nearly impossible for other plants to get the resources they need. Great for weed suppression in gardens, but not so much in the adjacent lawns and other natural environments it escapes into. So Caroline, what can they plant instead?
Well, I actually have two alternatives for us today, Lydia. Both of them are types of phlox. And I'm going to start this out to make sure everyone is very clear on what type of phlox they're buying, because both of these actually go by similar common names. The first one I want to talk about today is creeping phlox, which is also known as Phlox stolonifera. As I said, it's very important to know which phlox we're talking about right now. This is really so much prettier than Vinca, though it has a very similar growth habit. So it is another ground cover. It loves moist soils and dappled shade to part sun, but it even can grow in full shade. It grows about 6 inches tall and can spread about 1.5 feet wide per plant. It is not as aggressive a grower as Vinca, but it definitely will fill in a space. But what's really special about this is that the flowers of creeping phlox are actually held up above the plant and are a beautiful blue, just like that Vinca. However, they are also fragrant. So not only do you get a plant that has those beautiful blue nodding flowers, but you have this beautiful wafting fragrance through your garden, which I really think is such a plus.
Definitely a bonus.
The foliage is very attractive. The bloom time is quite long. So there's some spring blooming varieties, but largely bloom will be from July to September. So hitting that hot part of summer, which is even nicer with those cool blue flowers. Some of my favorite cultivars include Sherwood Purple, Blue Moon, and Blue Ridge. The one trick with creeping phlox is it can get powdery mildew, but as long as you trim back after flowering, that isn't really an issue, and powdery mildew will not kill the plant. The second plant I wanted to talk about is Phlox subulata. This is also known as creeping or moss phlox. This is the one we see flowering in the spring, and this is another one with just such bold, beautiful colors. The foliage is very different. Creeping phlox has kind of rounded leaves, where moss phlox has kind of needle-like small leaves. And this is a wonderful plant that can thrive in dry, sunny conditions, as well as part shade. It can grow as little as, 3 or 4 inches tall and cover an area of about 2 feet per plant. It blooms early spring from about March to May, depending on the season. And you can get flowers in colors from red purples to pinks and whites. Even to really a true blue. So you can really customize the plant to your garden.
That's a lot of variety.
Yes. Grows great and is aggressive enough to keep out many weeds and act as a true ground cover.
All right, and to finish up this episode, Caroline has a couple of tips for planting ground cover.
2 tips that can give you a little more success in establishing a ground cover. Sometimes we're very tempted to put down landscape fabric or plastic mulch around our plants when we plant to avoid weeds that first season. But that will actually prevent ground covers from establishing and spreading as well as they can. So if you're going to mulch that first year, I highly recommend a loose mulch like a bark mulch between your plants. Also, make sure you space plants based on their predicted spread. So if a plant's supposed to cover a 3-foot area, you want to locate one plant every 3 feet. You'll have much better success at establishing a vigorous, attractive ground cover if you plant your plants closely enough so that they can fill in quickly.
Thanks for joining us to learn about native alternatives to invasives in your garden. We hope you learned something new to help make your garden even better.